Alright guys, let me just say this right now. I've been watching the models, I've been tracking the patterns, and something absolutely wild is brewing for this winter across the United States. It's one of those setups that meteorologists dream of, and if you're a snow lover, this could be the kind of season you remember for the rest of your life. We're talking about the perfect combination of ingredients. The kind that can turn a quiet December morning into a full-blown winter wonderland. And trust me when I say this, everything's pointing toward a relentless stretch of snow, ice, and brutal cold that'll test even the toughest winter veterans out there. Now before we dive deep into just how wild this winter could be, let's get a sense of what normal even looks like across the US in a typical season. Because once you see how the average year plays out, you'll really understand why this one stands out like a blizzard in July. Usually, the Gulf Coast, the Deep South, and our warm desert Southwest are the safe zones. Snow's a novelty there. Maybe once every couple of years, you'll get that rare day where the air gets just cold enough and the atmosphere lines up perfectly to spit out a few flakes. Maybe even a dusting, but it's rare. Places like Houston, Phoenix, and Los Angeles usually don't see much more than that, unless a monster polar system plunges deep out of Canada. By the way, if you'd like specific weather forecasts for your region or city, please leave them in the comments. I'll answer them individually as time allows. Also, if you like the video and subscribe to my channel, you'd be very grateful. Now let's move on. Now climb a little north and things start to get more interesting. The southern plains, parts of the Mid-South, the Mid-Atlantic, and the Pacific Northwest. These areas usually see 1 or 2 decent winter storms per year. It's not constant, but it's enough to remind you that winter means business. You might pick up a foot or two of snow in total, sometimes more if the right storm tracks line up. But then there's the real snow country. The Midwest, the Northern Plains, and of course the Northeast. This is where winter flexes. These regions are used to seeing 2, 3, even 4 feet of snow every single year. The Great Lakes can crank out lake effect snow that just buries towns for days. The Northeast can get nor'easters that dump 2 feet overnight. And out west, in the Rockies, you can easily get 70, 80, sometimes 100 inches of snow by the time spring rolls around. So now that we've got our baseline, let's talk about why this winter, this one right here, is shaping up to be so different. Because all the signs are pointing towards something far more extreme than what we've seen in recent years. The big story this year is the polar vortex. And if that term sounds familiar, it should. It's basically the engine that drives how cold the air gets across North America. This winter, that vortex looks like it's going to set up in a position that sends repeated surges of Arctic air plunging south. Again and again. And that's when things get wild. For the northern Rockies, the upper Midwest, and the Great Lakes, this setup screams snow. These regions are about to be the bullseye for cold air colliding with waves of moisture. And when those two forces meet, you already know what happens. Big, powerful winter storms. I'm talking about 6 to 12 inches more snow than your average year. Easily. And if you're in Minnesota, Wisconsin, or Michigan, it could be even more than that. But there's one region that really stands out to me. The upper Midwest and Great Lakes corridor. The data I've seen is showing snow totals 12 to 24 inches above normal. That's the kind of winter where you're shoveling your driveway one day, and then by the weekend, it's buried again. These snowstorms could bring 18 inches per storm in some cases, especially with lake effect bands cranking up. Now let's swing things west for a second, because the story changes dramatically once you cross the Sierra Nevada. Unfortunately, it's looking bleak for snow lovers out west. The signals are pointing to a below-average snow year across much of California and the far western US. The Sierra Nevada could see as much as 2 to 3 feet less snow than usual, which is a big deal considering how much that region relies on mountain snowpack for water. Some areas west of the Sierra might not even see a single real snow event all winter long. But then, there's our wild card, the Southern Plains and the Deep South. Now this is where it gets fun. Because these are the regions that always keep us guessing. Every year, we ask the same question. Will we get one of those rare southern snowstorms that catches everyone off guard? And this year, that answer might actually be yes. The setup we're seeing could allow 1 or 2 massive southern snow or ice events. Something like what we saw a couple of winters ago, where parts of Texas and Arkansas were literally locked in ice for days. But it's a true wild card zone. We could either get those big events, or we might get almost nothing at all. It's going to depend on how the cold air lines up with the moisture at the exact right time. Now, here's something that really grabbed my attention: the potential for major ice storms this winter. When you've got a setup like this, with warm Gulf moisture colliding with Arctic air, it's the perfect recipe for freezing rain. And I'm not talking about a little glaze on the roads. I'm talking half an inch, even more in some spots. Enough to take down trees, knock out power, and shut down travel for days. The regions most at risk for these icy disasters are the Ohio Valley, the Midwest, and parts of the Southern Plains. Cities like Chicago, Minneapolis, St. Louis, and even Oklahoma City could be dealing with multiple ice events this year. And further south into Missouri, Kansas, Iowa, and Nebraska. That's where we could see the worst of it. If there's one area that's almost guaranteed to see at least 1 or 2 major ice storms this winter, it's right there. And the reason for all this goes back to that polar vortex and how it interacts with the jet stream. When that cold air locks in place over the north-central US and dips south, it creates this huge battleground of air masses. Warm, moist air tries to surge north out of the Gulf, while Arctic air pushes down from Canada. And when those two collide, the result is chaos, snow, ice, and everything in between. Now, when we talk about the cold this winter, we're not just talking about grab your coat kind of cold. We're talking dangerous cold. The kind of cold that burns your lungs when you breathe. Northern Plains states like North Dakota, South Dakota, and Minnesota could easily see multiple Arctic blasts that send wind chills plunging to 60 or even 70 degrees below zero. That's the kind of cold that can break records and pipes. It all starts in late October. Picture this. It's Halloween, and instead of crisp fall air, we've got snowflakes flying across the northern plains and Rockies. Cities like Billings, Bismarck, Fargo, and Minneapolis could already be under 4 to 8 inches of early season snow, with some rural spots getting blasted with a foot or more. That's the moment when people realize winter's not waiting this year. Cold air is diving straight out of the Arctic, dropping south fast, and once it locks in, it's not going anywhere. By early November, huge sections of the central and northern US are already running below normal temperatures. And that's just the beginning. As November rolls on, that cold digs in deeper. Storm after storm starts spinning through the Rockies and Plains. Denver, Colorado Springs, Salt Lake City, Cheyenne. These cities could stack up 25 to 40 inches of snow before we even flip the calendar to December. Up north, across the upper Midwest, Minneapolis, Green Bay, Chicago, we could be looking at one of the snowiest Novembers on record. Lake effect snow will be firing nonstop off Lake Superior and Lake Michigan. Chicago might see 20 inches of snow by Thanksgiving, something we haven't seen since that brutal start to winter back in 2013. Then December hits, and that's when the real deep freeze locks in. The jet stream dips south like a roller coaster, dragging Arctic air all the way down to Texas and the Gulf Coast. Dallas, Oklahoma City, even northern Louisiana. Yep, you're all in play for snow and ice this year. Meanwhile, the Rockies get absolutely buried. We're talking feet upon feet of snowpack, not inches, over 100 inches in the higher elevations of Colorado, Utah, and Wyoming. And across the Midwest and Great Lakes, get ready. Cleveland, Detroit, Buffalo. These cities could all see 40 inches of snow or more before Christmas even gets here. Buffalo especially. It's looking like back-to-back lake effect blizzards could hammer the city with 60-inch totals by year's end. Honestly, it's shaping up to be even worse than 2013 in some ways. Now let's talk January, the heart of the beast. This is when the country goes into full Arctic lockdown. A massive dome of cold settles over the central and eastern US, trapping everything underneath. Highs in the single digits stretch from the Dakotas all the way down through Kansas, Missouri, and into northern Arkansas. The Great Lakes start freezing over early. The Midwest could stay below freezing for nearly 3 straight weeks. Chicago, Indianapolis, Milwaukee. We're talking 10 to 20 degree wind chills, the kind of cold that makes your eyelashes freeze. It's a true polar vortex setup, and it's relentless. Alright, if you'd like specific weather forecasts for your region or city, leave your region or city in the comments. I'll answer them individually as I have time. Commenting is completely free. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.